like a really good song, the end of Lost Children Archive brings all of its narratives back into play as the novel comes to a conclusion. And it's kind of focused through the adventure that the boy and the girl have as they wander out into the desert on their own, riding the train, following the map, and eventually, coming face to face with the possibility of death. That adventure is a part of the kind of wider narratives that Luiselli engages within this novel. There is a number of parallel journeys that develop here, right? Kind of the overarching one is the family's drive southwest, all while the marriage is in a process of breaking up there. Another part of that journey is the mother's sense of psychological dissent that the narrator tells herself as things are coming apart as she travels southwest. Here we get the boy and the girl going out to look for Manuela's girls. The boy takes it upon himself, as kind of a rite of passage of becoming a man and going into adulthood, right? And oddly enough, that's the journey that they take as kind of a reversal of Geronimo's journeys and travels, as on his way into exile. And we also have kind of another overarching narrative here, which is that of the elegies, right? The lost children's journey north, riding the train and then going into the desert. And so all these journeys come to the fore in the boy and girl's adventure in the story. They gather the map. The boy takes the map because he feels, that he's adept at map reading and following those. And he also takes along his mother's copy of the elegies, and he reads them to his sister as they travel. As he notes, though, as long as he has the map, right, he has a certain power and a certain ability, capacity to affect that journey safely for them. As he narrates on 263 to 277, I studied my map. I was in control of the situation, even though we looked like a place where everyone had died or simply vanished. But he feels the capacity, he feels the power to be able to lead his sister through this world and to perhaps find Manuela's children in the midst of this wasteland, this desert area. As he travels with his stepsister here, right, he starts to develop a sense of unease, though, right? Because, as he notes on 274, you believed me because you trusted me, and this always made me feel guilty. So there are points here, right, where he starts to feel a sense of unease from, how much his sister trusts him here, how much that she leans on his capacity to read that map, his capacity to lead them through dangerous terrain. When she herself discovers that the children are gone, right, the narrator's response on 301 is, why did they leave? And so she's kind of thinking through cause and effect here. What is it that prompts the journey, and what ways, how is that journey tied to the marriage's breakup, or how is that journey tied to something she said or done, which is interesting from the standpoint that you get that flip, right? That the mother has been narrating the story all along and silently believing the children aren't watching her, but in reality the boy has been watching her and reading her and seeing what's going on. And as they go into the desert, right, the boy notes, we were invisible. I must have run too fast, as he gets separated from his sister when they run from the diner into the train yard. You weren't anywhere. Did you know you were lost? And so he feels like he's lost his sister here. But once they get on the train and they start traveling, he has a sense of belief that she will be on the train, and he does find her on that train. It's within the train ride that there starts to develop a confluence of the children's journeys here, right? The boy and the girl, as well as the lost children's journey. Like the lost children, the boy notes on 293, we walked into the unreal desert holding hands, right? That they are journeying to into the desert as the lost children are. Those children had ridden the rails of La Bestia north and had crossed over and are now into the desert and have crossed the border and are seeking their salvation north of the border. It's interesting, right, though, that the lost children are traveling, as the novel notes on 316, away from darkness behind them. North into the heart of light they walk. And then, but on the flip side, right, the boy and his sister are traveling south into the heart of light we walked. It felt, though, like you were disappearing. So as they travel through the desert, they are headed one way, and the lost children are headed the other way, and that eventuates in their meeting eventually, right? One heads north, one heads south, and they meet in that rail car in the desert in a great moment of crossover. One of the things that's interesting about the desert is terrain here, right? Is that this is, as the American Southwest, it is marked by ancient presences, right? That it's a geology that is marked by great shifts in time. It's a space that's, as the American Southwest or the Mexican North, right, is marked by migrations of people from throughout long ranges of history here, right? And as they are traveling through that space, right, there's a murmurous silence, the boys notice, the echoes of the things that were once there. So, they have a firm sense of the stories and the histories and the time that has passed within this space. And, they try to re-invoke it in a sense of the box of echoes on pages 341 to 4, which is an interesting thing to try to read, right? Is how do they try to encapsulate that space in words or in sounds there. And by the time you get to, the story's kind of resolution, you have these stories coming together, all the journeys coming back together again. The boys' and the girls' journey, also the larger journey of the family, and its kind of eventual disintegration. As the boy notes on 347, this is where the story ends. In the end, I think it was impossible for Ma and Pa to stay together. So he has a sense of the reasons, or hint of the reasons why his family has come apart in the end. He also recognizes that his stepmother, her sense of kind of dissolution within a sense of grief for the lost children and their story, right? Because all Mama's life was looking for lost children, and that becomes very real in the loss of her own children, and then having to find them within the desert here. And so you get to the end here, and you ask yourself what's lost or what's been saved or archived, right? And the boy, through his storytelling, starts to realize a sense of story's value in the end, right? That is, he's cataloging or archiving these stories of what happened for the girl, for Memphis. And so he notes at the end of the novel, or at the end of the writing of the novel at least, right? You have to know all of this and remember it, Memphis. Don't lose anything, because you and I will find each other again. These stories become the means of finding their way back to each other, even though this family's about to come apart. That these stories are the thing that will bring these two, the boy and the girl, back together again in life. The story doesn't end there, of course, right? There's this box 7, which are the Polaroids, and so the other question here is, like, how do you read those in the end, right? In what ways do those also exist as story as you flip through those pictures? Are those simply kind of evidence or proof of the journey that's been taken? Are they kind of a disconnected series of photos from all kinds of sources that Luiselli pulls together to kind of build a sense of the narrative here? Are they fiction? Are they nonfiction? Do they become, in a sense, nonfiction when you look at the photographs against the stories? How do the photographs kind of reaffirm or buttress the stories themselves, or in what ways do the photographs perhaps undercut the stories for you as readers? They're all questions that you kind of come to in the end as you kind of rethink the journey that you've taken in Lost Children Archive.